setup over here. I'm impressed. Got some helpers here. It's going. Explain the whole scenario. Alrighty guys, here's an exciting day coming back from a pretty awesome trip. For those who know, I was out on a pretty sweet boat trip from Portland, Maine to Savannah, Georgia with Gus from In Too Deep. If you guys don't know who that is, I don't think you're even out boating, to be honest. But a very awesome guy. If you haven't seen his channel, definitely check it out. Amazing boat content and quite frankly, an amazing trip that I just went on. Back through the ICW. Another day of traveling, and it's gorgeous out here. Oh yeah, a whole bunch more dolphins this time. Yeah. All for the shot. We are now back here in the shop, about to head over to the boat. Got to do a lot of things. Got to get the boat prepped, moved for winter, and just simply ready to start this whole process of installing everything you see behind me. So let's take a quick look. So while I was gone, this came in. An awesome 55-gallon drum of resin and all kinds of goodies to get this bulkhead put back in. So we got our waxes, our MAKP, some Cavasil, some just basically chopped strand, which I feel like I kind of got gypped on that one. From doing some looking and things like that, I feel like just buy normal chopped strand and break it up yourself instead of just buying a bucket of it. But some heavy mat, some 1708, and then the big, most expensive part is the 55-gallon drum of resin. And here's those beautiful cat engines and all the other mess that is going on. All sorts of water filters, pumps, transmission mounts, gear mounts, and everything going on. AC units, kind of starting to strip things down, get bases, because look at how crusty some of these things are. Gonna get all these things taken apart, cleaned all up. Some compressors worked, some didn't. Different things going on with each one. Some of the valves are very rusted and corroded. So we're gonna go through a lot of the AC stuff and see what's going on. Some things that are still in pretty decent shape, though, is like the water manifolds. All that stuff is gonna get powder coated, like I've said a million times. But some exciting news, these also got finished while I was gone on the trip. There's the old shaft couplers. There's the new shaft couplers. Obviously, these were for the other set of gears, which has a lot smaller flange. So these are the new shaft couplers. They lined up pretty darn good. Well, not pretty good, actually perfect. Everything about them came out perfect. So I think I'm gonna lap them onto the shafts before setting them off for powder coat. Just to make sure that the inner bore is lapped and pretty good. The only issue I have is remembering what one is left and right or port and starboard. So I might send one off at a time, but still unsure. We still got this massive pile of parts, which is taking up way too much space here in the shop. So it's time to get to work. So here's that new generator that I bought. This is some of the old housing off the old generator. We are going to be pulling the gears off. Unlike the Mans where I took everything all out at once, we are going to be putting the gears in first to try to align the shaft couplers and everything like that, and to then drop these in. Just to also shrink the package of how much bigger these engines are compared to the other ones. To make our lives a little bit easier, we are going to pull the turbos, because you can see how wide those sit. Pull any of the coolers and stuff off of the top, and the heat exchanger up front. You can see how much that heat exchanger sticks out. So we're gonna pull that heat exchanger off and then start going through this big process of putting everything back to where it's gotta go. Got a sweet skid here, which is actually a whole hydraulic platform. I know that's kind of a weird thing for a sport fish, for everybody that's actually fishing with their boat, but might be something that's gonna get installed, is have a hydraulic platform on the back. So with all of that being said, I'm gonna head down to the boat, start getting things prepped. Like I said, We got to get shrink wrap on this thing. We got to get it moved to the spot that it's going to stay all winter. Just a big process and a lot of things to do this weekend. Gonna try to do some more filming. It's not the easiest thing to be in the middle, all geared up, face mask, and then try to grab the camera. But I'm gonna do my best to try to continue just simply filming more. Let's catch you over at the boat. All right, guys, over here at the marina. I'm gonna kind of walk through what I got going on, where we are with the project, and what the plan is. Boat is currently been set up over here, kind of a temporary scenario. Thanks to the awesome marina that I'm at. They've been allowing me to kind of tuck away over here, get things done. But the plan is to actually try to get the boat over here in this corner. They have some marine construction happening here to accommodate some bigger boats, so that should be pretty awesome. But we are gonna tuck away the boat over there for the winter. I am up in Canada, which we don't get extreme winters, but we do get freezing temperatures. So I got 2 water agitators. So basically these guys keep it from freezing. That's gonna be the setup. Got to get the boat shrink wrapped and everything like that. But I'll show you the mess that I got going on right now. And one of the craziest scenarios that I've been having to deal with, which I'll show you a quick clip of what happened here. Is I had to get my water tank out. It was glued in. For the life of me, I couldn't get it out. So I had to bring out the jaws of life, which we'll cue the clip and I'll show you real quick what I had to do. The reason you buy the jaws of life and all the attachments is so when you're rebuilding a 58-foot boat and you need to take the water tank out, you just use the jaws of life. Because man, we've been fighting at this with pry bars for hours, right? Jaws of life. Here's my water tank. Man, that was almost crappier than taking my engines out, trying to get this thing out. So here's my fiberglass water tank, which there's some dilemmas with it, that's for sure. I'll bring you down into the engine room and show you what I got going on. Don't mind the mess here. It's basically been set up with everything I have for the massive construction project at hand. This bulkhead has been completely rebuilt with Kusa. Well, not completely rebuilt. It's re-cored, I should say. Still got to do the last layer of glass. Oh, it's buried. I'll show you at some point. I did have to rebuild a little tiny stringer. It was probably 4 inches tall. Yeah, I can't get to it right now. Only about 4 inches tall, but it was pretty rotted. So I ended up completely taking it out, cutting it all out, gutting it, and re-coring it with Kusa as well. So I'm gonna flip the camera and show you the biggest dilemma that I ran into. I talked to quite a few people about repowering this boat with the engines I'm doing it with. And it seemed like nobody, including the people I talked to at Viking, knew that this was a scenario. So after doing some measurements, well, not even doing some measurements, I sat the old engines beside the new engines and started looking at them and going, that's not gonna work. We are currently in the boat with the forward bulkhead completely cut out. So this used to be a solid bulkhead all the way across. This is where my water tank was sitting. This, which I still don't know what it is what glued my water tank in place. And as you can see in some spots where the bolts went through to mount the engine, this forward bulkhead had moisture issues. Look at this. Just insane. Watch, I can probably, and of course, there you go, you get some good idea. Just here where the bolts were, and there was one smaller soft spot up here somewhere. But the rest of the bulkhead was in very solid shape. So I was going to address, I knew about the soft spots when I bought the boat. I was going to address it. I was going to do exactly what I'm doing now, cut it all out, figure out how to re-core it, whatever I had to do, whether it was replacing the whole thing, the spots that was soft, whatever it may be. But it now turns out I have to move my bulkhead almost 10 inches forward. So that's where the biggest dilemma is coming into play. So as you see, I've started and prepped by just sanding all the way along. You can see where I started getting the gel coat off there, where we are going to be building a brand new bulkhead and putting a new Coosa bulkhead in place of this one. So, Brandon, wasn't your water tank on the other side? Absolutely. Was it the exact size between the forward engine bulkhead and the engine room bulkhead? Yes, it was. So now I have to shrink my water tank, which actually sucks. I only hold about 200 gallons of water, and for some of the trips that I wanted to do, I actually do wish I held way more water. So the water maker that I wasn't planning on using right away is probably going to get set up right away, because I'm having a feeling I'm going to probably lose 30 or 40 gallons of water. It is what it is. I also have compartments in the front that are completely wide open, so I might try to figure out another way to add an extra water tank. Once everything is set in place, I'm going to see if the boat has a natural list to it, and I'm going to see about getting a custom tank or something like that built if I find the amount of water I have isn't enough for what I want to do. As you can see though, cutting everything out, and hopefully today I will get a template made up and start building a whole new bulkhead, just like I did this one. Built a big template, which quite frankly, I think it's going to be a whole lot easier building a new bulkhead than it is trying to recore an old bulkhead. It should be a bit easier, and the boat in certain spots is going to be a lot stronger, because this whole area is normally a flat shelf, and this is one of those things where I'm doing it once and done. I was in this boat, you guys can see the amount of work that is happening in here. If there were signs of moisture, it's gone. It's simply gone. So basically, the plywood that sat here, which looks just like this, it was showing signs of moisture because you can actually see where water was running down. So from my vents, you can see where it was leaking. Water was running down and pooling here where there was screws screwed in. So obviously it's not really a structural thing. Like everything that's glassed in does add a structural value, but it wasn't a crucial thing that needed to be here. So honestly, it could have been probably completely rotted out and it would do just fine. But there is some heavier components going on that area. And like I said, I'm here, I'm doing it right completely. If there's anything that has moisture in it, it's gone. Cut that whole area out, and we're gonna be basically re-glassing it. I'm hoping to have enough Coosa to do all these flat surfaces, including this area here, all back in Coosa. If I don't, just because of how difficult it is to get it, I might go back with just normal plywood. I'm just gonna go with a little bit better than what factory did and do a full layer of glass underneath it and on top, well, multiple layers on top, instead of just painting on resin on the bottom. Got my pieces of wood to make a template so I can sit there and cut them all up. I actually got the hot glue gun heating up as we speak. And so you do things like this. You take smaller pieces and then simply just glue them like this, and you continue cutting pieces and glue them until you get the whole entire shape of what we're trying to do here. That is the plan today. I'm hoping to get this bulkhead and this whole area cut out, cleaned up, and ready to glass by the end of this weekend. And that is kind of why I ended up with a whole drum of resin, because I have to rebuild an entire bulkhead, which is almost 13 feet wide, about, I think, 2.5 to 3 feet tall, fully glassed, and then also cut my water tank, shrink it 10 inches, re-glass it all, and bed it back into place. And still the roof. So there's so much resin that is going to be needed between the whole new bulkhead, the fixing of the ceiling, the fixing of the back window area, just a ton of fiberglass work to be done. Enough talking to you guys. I'm going to get some work done. All right, guys, I had to show you what I just found. So I just cut out this piece of wood. It's where the sump sat for basically all the AC condensers, drains, everything drained into one sump and then got pumped over. So I just cut it out. It was sitting right there because obviously I got to run my new bulkhead here. Well, check this relic out. Haven't even touched it yet. I think I'm impressed. I don't know if I've ever seen a hammer so bad in my life. When you're working on your boat, you're cutting stuff up, and you find a sweet hammer. Woo! Under a floorboard. Check that bad boy out. Oh. Well, it was a 9-ounce. Maybe now it's a 6-ounce hammer. I don't know if I'm impressed or sad to see it go. All right, guys. So we're at the point where we're making the template for the front bulkhead. I'll show you exactly what we got going on. So, got some helpers here. There's Matt and Tyler here. And this is what we got going on. So basically we got our straight line, which we used a laser level for, even though nothing on a boat is ever level. So we're just using that to get a line in a straight line. That's it. Nothing to be level about it. But this is basically all you do to kind of be able to figure out your contours. So we'll build this the entire way. Then we'll pull that off and we'll have a perfect trace of exactly where we got to cut everything out. Bring it to the shop and trace it onto Coosa. We'll build the entire bulkhead outside of the boat, then transfer it into the boat, drop it in, and start fiberglassing it in. This is the process. Brings you back to the arts and craft days of the hot glue gun, right, Matt?
Yeah, man. Last time I used one of those was to build a popsicle stick bridge in grade school.
Well, we're going back to grade school stuff. Let's get in there. Matt took the mini pieces approach. Tyler took the, look at that, sanding it down for one perfect piece. I like it. Both methods work. It's whatever you choose, basically. We're just trying to keep the tolerance pretty tight. So this way when we go to glue that bulkhead in, you're just not using a lot of thickened resin to glue that thing in. Let's get in there. And just like that, we have a full template made for the forward bulkhead. So, time to pull it off, bring it to the shop, start tracing it out, making it out of Coosa. So here's the process. So we got the template out in the shop here. We laid out 2 sheets of Coosa, and now we're gonna just trace this all out and cut it to shape. We gotta do 5 layers thick. There's gonna be a seam in the middle that we're gonna just stagger. But yeah, that's how you get your template. Good morning, guys. Even though it's probably not morning for you, but back at the shop here, and take a look. There's our template, and there is a full bulkhead. Gotta love all my weights, right? Messed up prop, bucket of resin, shaft couplers, engine mounts, some wax solution for 55-gallon drum of resin, some odd things like washer fluid. But got all the sandwich of fiberglassing done for all the Coosa. Turned out pretty good. Also, just because I'm curious on some of the bonding strength, got a couple pieces here of scrap that I just put some resin in between, stuck them together, no pressure, nothing, and want to see the strength of what it takes to break them apart. And if anybody's ever doing this and you're trying to not stick to the surface, let me tell you, shrink wrap works amazing. Everything just peels right off of it. It's not stuck to it. Easy to break off afterwards. And for the most part, when you roll it up, all the leftover drips of resin just break away. It actually can be reused, which makes it very nice. But with that being said, I'm gonna continue on here and start moving everything and try to pack it up, get it to the boat. Alrighty, guys, just finished doing a ton of sanding. We're here at the boat, ready to throw this bulkhead in. Here's the boat here, and here's the bulkhead. All prepped and ready to go in. I got required some help to move this thing today, so I got two buddies over, Matt and little Mikey. They're currently down there prepping the area. Got the roof lifted up, well, the floor slash roof, getting everything ready to drop it in there. I'll try to set up a camera and show you what's happening as we go along, but here's the view from up top.
1 step at a time there, of course. On slip, maybe go up. Port side, so that one gotta go first. Yep.
So, we're mixing up what's called some thickened resin with some fiberglass strand in it. As you can see, just starting to mix it up. What we're gonna do is basically, I'm gonna mix this all up. It's gonna create a very strong thickened glue, which we're gonna lay under the new, here, maybe you guys can hear me a little better. You always wanna wear a mask when dealing with Cavasil though. It's very, very fine dust and you don't wanna breathe it in. But we're gonna mix it all up, make a nice glue, lay it all down along where that bulkhead is going, and then basically just squish it down. We're gonna get mixing up some glass, and hopefully I'll try to bring you in there and show you the process. All right, guys. So we just got the bulkhead put in place, and then we're smoothing everything out. Matt wants to explain the whole scenario.
What do you mean?
Matt's over here laughing. I think the fumes are getting to him. We do have 2 exhaust fans going to try to keep some of the fumes out. But this is how this side is now looking. So we just use basically a spatula. A couple different versions though, some that are cut up to be a little different, some aren't. Just get that nice smooth curve that you want all the way around, because when you're fiberglassing, you do not want any sharp edges. Good morning, guys. It is November 29th. We've had to take a little bit of a break from the boat build because just getting the boat prepped for winter, and showed up to the marina today to find this. There's a small layer of ice, and we haven't had ice in November in the marina in at least 10 years. I'll show you quickly what we got going on here. I also snapped some pics of us installing it and stuff like that. Don't judge my shrink wrap job here. We did get the boat wrapped. It's not done being shrunk because it just got way too windy, started blowing holes in it everywhere, and then we went into a full-blown windstorm that lasted almost 3 days. But yep. Might be hard to tell from here, but I do have a layer of ice here all the way around the boat. It's gonna be time to put the ice heaters in, or the water agitators, depending on where you are. It seems like everybody calls them something different. But got the Vevor diesel heater plumbed in, keeping this whole area pretty warm. Did have one casualty. Built a little 2x4 frame to help shed any snow. And because I wasn't able to get everything shrunk nice and tight, it did unfortunately poke a hole. So that's the goal today. Try to patch that up and finish shrinking it, because you could see basically where I was able to get shrunk, and the top part is still very loose. All right, well, we're gonna put the camera down, maybe take a quick video of what I'm doing shrink wrapping it, but I'm gonna get started here. All right, guys, it's cold, it's snowing, and this is a wrap for me, no pun intended. The boat is wrapped. My little gazebo area is wrapped so I can store all my tools and random stuff in. I got both of my water agitators, just temporary setup. We are getting some freezing temperatures over the next couple days. Boat is all winterized because I just did that yesterday. Besides for the snow that's coming, which means I got to get to work. Everything here is pretty much set up. Just quickly wrapped it with the scraps I had. Little opening. So I can kind of just leave everything with a light set up. Just leave everything set up there. There's a good look at the water agitators. Of course, you got to have the diesel heater. Got one there, and if I need the second one in there, I'll use it. But I also got the second one here, so I can heat up this little workshop area if needed. I got to get to work, so the boat build will probably continue tomorrow, depending on weather, if not Monday. I'll catch you guys then. All right, guys. Well, we got the bulkhead glued in place, and now it's time to cut some glass and get it ready to be put in. Here's kind of the process. Quick little jig set up, and my template that I use to make the bulkhead. We're gonna now trace it out and start cutting multiple layers of glass. I think it's gonna be 5 or 6 layers per side. Gonna get started. You can kind of see where all my stringers are, which are gonna have to get tabbed in. But for now, we're gonna cut them out. And then each layer, because this is the hull, we're gonna do a 1-inch tab. So we're gonna add an inch, add an inch, add an inch to basically all 5 or 6 layers to tab it out at the bottom using the main skin that will be going across the bulkhead that will then 90 at the bottom and connect to the hull. But here's the quick setup. About to grab the electric scissors and start cutting. These things for glass work, absolutely amazing. Get this done, start mixing up some resin hopefully tomorrow and start installing it. Well guys, it's the next day here and I got some help. And I'll show you what I mean by how awesome those electric scissors are. Little Mikey here is gonna demonstrate.
Oh, good.
Come on. He's on the spot. All right, we'll get him on a straightaway here, but you can see what we got going on. Getting everything cut out. A little table set up. And he's taking his time and being cautious, but I'll show you. I'll try to do this with one hand holding the camera and one hand holding the scissors. I'll show you how the fastest can go. A little bit difficult holding the camera and showing you, but you get what I mean by how nice those scissors are. If you do glass work and you don't have a pair, they're like 30 bucks on Amazon. Show you what we got cut out so far. So we basically got forward bulkhead pieces. We have the top of the bulkhead, which as you see, all of them are slowly bigger than the back of the bulkhead. You can kind of see. So I ended up having some extra, so we got a -1, 0, 1. So I'm gonna actually start with something a little smaller on top, same size, just to utilize what I had for the last piece. And then we still got a whole bunch more to cut out. I think I've been trying to do 6 layers of glass on the sides, and then we got the 6 or the 7 actually layers for the very top. And then where the actual I-beams are gonna mount, I'm actually gonna double it up front and back. I'm just gonna kind of cut out foot by foot squares and add it right where the I-beams are gonna bolt to the forward and back bulkhead. We're gonna keep cutting, and hopefully the next update will be actually back in the boat and starting to get things wet out and glass in place. All right, back here at the boat. And bulkhead is ready to start laying some glass. Everything, I don't want to touch it now. I just finished wiping everything down with acetone. I have everything laid out. All of my sizes from basically 1 through 7, doing 7 layers, which I'm hoping should be more than strong enough. Like I said, where the actual I-beams go, I am gonna be doing a couple extra layers to stiffen up that area. Everything is prepped now. I'm gonna put a little workbench, or basically a piece of plywood right here, so I can wet out glass that needs to be wet out. I have an empty bucket that I'm gonna basically fill with resin. So the top strips that are going to go along here, I can pre-soak, which will just make things a little bit easier. So I'm gonna get everything set up. I'm gonna change. I got kind of the white Tyvek suit to put on. This way to keep myself a little bit cleaner and being able to drive home after. This might be tricky to film. I'm gonna do my best. I have a buddy stopping by in a little bit, so hopefully I can convince him to pick up the GoPro and film some things, but it's really hard to do this kind of stuff and by myself while filming. Just being covered in fiberglass resin. I really don't want to grab the GoPro and hit record. We'll see how it goes. I'll take you guys along as much as I can. So just bear with me here. I'm gonna get it started. Well, as you can see, suited up to get this started. I'm gonna show you basically, if you're ever doing fiberglass, this is about how you should do it. But mind you, I am no expert. I'm basically learning as I'm going here. As you can see, I have all the glass laid out to get this accomplished. So I got BO, which is back zero, because I decided to actually do one layer without an overlap. So basically on the bulkhead here, I'm gonna do 2 layers, no overlap, which means nothing will be coming down and overlapping, just to get some extra strength on that Coosa. I have everything laid out, and then I have the top, which is this guy here. I have all of them all laid out. Basically, it's slowly going to go thicker and curve down a little bit more, and then these will butt up a little bit shorter, basically shorter and shorter, and the more it moves down, the more it's going to overlap. And on this side, I'm going to basically have all my mixing stuff ready. I'm going to pre-prep a couple, what is this here? Basically 3.5 liters of resin. Canadian side, so yes, I measure everything in liters. I'm gonna basically prep a couple of them ready to go with some of the hardener. Once I'm ready for the next batch, I can pour it in, or I'll have these already filled, and I can just pour in the hardener, mix it up, and keep going. Gonna set up a time lapse so you can kind of hopefully see the process quickly, and then the chances I get, I'll pick up the GoPro here and talk with you. All right, I'm gonna get started.
Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit. Me get up, first shot, come strut walking, a little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious, somewhere between like Rocky and
Fortunately, as you kind of seen with the time lapse, my help did not show up, but was still able to get quite a bit done. I believe I got 2 layers on the back, 3 layers on the front, and 3 layers on the top. Still have a ton to go. I'm still working on getting all the air bubbles out, letting it soak in right now, but so far this is actually turning out really well. Still got like these corners, how well you can see that. There's some air bubbles there. Letting the resin soak in definitely helps. It soaks into that fiber and then basically allows you to roll things out a little bit easier. So right now just giving it a minute here to kick, and then I'm gonna start rolling it out still. All right guys, so back at it today. Guess what is done? Finally, the bulkhead is all completed and glassed. Hopefully you like the quick little time lapse of basically the process I did. I'm gonna show you what I got going on today and how everything looks. Started giving it a quick sand, get any rough edges, especially the areas that I'm leaning up against, things like that. I was getting picked too many times, I said screw that. Giving it a quick sand down to get rid of any sharp edges. We have to cut into these old stringers here. I'm gonna basically cut most of this up, recore it with Coosa, tab it back in both sides, and then I started cutting out the old bulkhead, shaping it and smoothing it down. And what I got to do is build up this whole area in here. I'm gonna do a couple layers of glass where the old bulkhead was, and then basically smooth it all out so this way it evenly flows into there. And then I will finish cutting out all of the old bulkhead, just as you see here where it's shelved off, which basically house pumps and transformers and things like that. That shelving is basically just going to go completely right across and close up this area here. This bulkhead, as you guys know, it's already been the coring has been put back into it. It was all done with epoxy, so it's very, very strong. And now that finishes up all the bulkhead stuff for the majority. This is gonna start to get fiberglassed, I'm hoping tomorrow, once I sand everything down some more. I'm pretty happy with it. That is 8 layers of fiberglass, 7 layers of 1708, and 1 layer of very heavy woven mat. And then the top cap, which still technically isn't done, is 10 layers. Because just like you see, the shelf goes across and then it has to get tabbed in. So that tabbing is going to add even more layers to the top. And as you may know, my water tank isn't there. And obviously it used to sit from about here to there with a couple inches of gap in between. So yeah, basically on the next episode, I'm going to start showing you what I'm doing there. I'm cutting the fiberglass tank basically apart, shrinking it and trying to reglass it so it can go back into that spot. But that's going to kind of end this episode, because as you can see, I have all the sanding tools out. I got my 2 exhaust fans rigged up. I got my diesel heater blowing warm air in. And I'm gonna suit up and do a ton of grinding and sanding. So I'll catch you guys once I start cutting up the fiberglass tank, or once I get started on the tank, whatever that ends up being. See you then.